Today's topic is about accelerating digital transformation by using the right digital application management platform. Today, enterprises are pretty much towards the race of implementing digital transformation, and the whole digital transformation wave has forced a lot of enterprises to make themselves equipped with the right tools and technologies to face this digital transformation wave. While the degrees and the scale at which the transformation may happen at different enterprises, the challenges that they go through pretty much remain the same. So, in today's session, we are going to look at how an platform approach can help towards moving in the digital transformation journey and how it can overall help enterprises accelerate their transformation. So with that, a quick intro about Aspire. So Aspire is a technology services firm with a strong DNA of software engineering. And our focus areas are digital services, software engineering itself, testing and infrastructure management. So we have around 1,500 plus employees spread across 120 plus customers. We are a CMA level 3 company, with an ISO 2008 and 27001, with a global presence of US, UK, Singapore, and Benelux, Middle East, and India as well. And we are also happy to let you know that we are getting the best place to work for the 7 consecutive times. So for today's session, we have 2 speakers. So myself, I'm Janaki Jayachandran. So I'm a technology director. So I have been participating in a lot of conferences, and I do a lot of speaking around digital transformation, SaaS, and the overall platform-based approaches. And today, along with me, I have Lokesh Shanmugam, who's also from the digital transformation team. And he brings in a lot of experience in terms of architecting some of these digital management platforms and equipping the enterprises towards their digital transformation journey. A quick housekeeping instruction. So your phones are all set to mute. So if you have any questions, please type them in the chat window that you see in the panel. And we'll take as many questions as possible towards the end of the session. And in case if we are not able to answer some of these questions, we will ensure we revert back to you over an email. And we'll be sharing this presentation as well to all the registered participants. So you'll be getting a copy of this presentation. All right. So with that, I would like to get started with the key elements that are required in a digital transformation for enterprises. What is driving these digital transformation? Right? So that from a need perspective, if we look at, enterprises have a very strong need today to evaluate a lot of things which will help them do better, right? Which involves, for example, streamlining a lot of their workflow as to how they operate as a company. So you need to be able to quickly evaluate the way how things are going to be working for you, right? So which also leads to a lot of experimentation to be done within enterprises because there's no straight single silver bullet at times. So you may have to do a little bit of iteration to figure out what works best for an enterprise. And in today's competitive world, you need to be unique, you need to be different, which means you need to try something new that others have not tried. So a lot of experimentation is required. So it's not about failing, it's about failing fast and then learning from it and being able to turn around things in a quick time frame. The other big challenge that enterprises are seeing is establishing the connect to the customers, connect to their vendors, connect to their partners. Now this ecosystem becomes a very critical success factor for enterprises. So you need to be able to really understand the customers emotions in terms of how they interact with your system, what is the buying cycle, how the whole customer's journey happens to be with the enterprise in terms of their transactions. So again, by domain, this whole thing changes. If it's a retail, if it's an e-commerce, then it's a different aspect. If it's more of B2C, then for example, retail banking and things like that will be slightly different. But then the common denominator stands at understanding the customer behavior, understanding the customer analytics becomes critical. Having that last mile connectivity with them plays a key role for that. And the other important aspect is, with so many solutions in place, with so many systems within the enterprises, there is a need to be continuously aligning these systems and solutions based on the business outcome. And today, a lot of things are dynamic in nature, so a mechanism to have a continuous alignment of these various systems and solutions with the end objective of the overall business outcome becomes a very important aspect as well. Now, this being said, as the driving factors, what is stopping enterprises today? So where exactly is the bottleneck for these enterprises, right? So if you look at a quick survey from the CMO.com, majority of the feedback or the respondents have rated the internal IT systems as the third biggest obstacle, which is preventing them towards moving to the digital transformation, or at least they are not giving the pace to reach the digital transformation. So that being said, so what exactly does it transform to, right? So where exactly is even IT finding the problems, right? So one common challenge that IT has in today's world is the lack of vision, right? So it's very important the groups within the enterprises are clearly aligned towards a central goal of what they are working towards. So if the goal of an enterprise, for example, for an e-commerce company, the goal is to increase the sales by an X percentage, or they want to increase the revenue stream through, let's say, a mobile app, then that goal has to be transformed and communicated and aligned within every single department and sub-department, so that each of them are equipped to be able to meet that particular goal. But in some cases, that vision sometimes doesn't get clearly translated into, and hence each of the departments, they try to operate in a silo, thus leading to failure in some cases. Connected to that is the decentralized information. So the information, like in this case, how each department assumes the goal to be. So there is no one single place where the information is available for everybody to interact. Like the silo nature of these different modules and entities creates the decentralized manner. So something has to unite them, pull them together. So you need to have one common ground for these teams. The other big challenge is the continuous evolvement in the technology front. And today technology has been going in a breakneck speed, and a lot of things keep changing, and which is another big challenge for the IT, right? So in terms of adopting these technologies, there is a learning curve, there is a time that it takes for implementing these technologies, but then by the time it's done, then there is already a new technology in place. So how do you tackle these things? You need to enable the IT to tackle some of these things. The other big challenge for large organizations in particular is their distributed way of working. So either they are distributed across different states, or they are distributed by countries, different regions. So that again brings in a lot of complexity as to how these different teams coherently work together towards a single goal. And also the need for experimentation, which we saw. The teams should be given the flexibility and liberty to be able to experiment and then learn, and then being able to move things faster. So we cannot just conclude with one outcome. And the final thing is on the whole infrastructure today, particularly with the introduction of cloud, has simplified to a great extent of resolving some of these infrastructure requirements within the enterprise, because that, at least at one point in time, was a huge limiting factor as to how much an enterprise can do. But today, if the IT teams are approaching with the right cloud transformation plan, then some of these infrastructure limitations can be easily resolved. But that is one of the challenges, bottleneck that enterprises will have to deal with. So where do these custom applications come into picture? So where exactly the digital management, application management should even come into picture? Now, enterprises have two sets of applications, I would say. One, what we call the COTS, right, out of the box applications, which are those big ERPs or the various SaaS systems that they consume, and the integration requirement between these systems. Well, that is one part of the story. But to achieve a true digital transformation, this alone may not be sufficient. So there are a lot of things that needs to be done within the enterprises. For example, like the automation part to be done. So there could be several manual steps that could potentially be automated in an enterprise. So when you automate such kind of processes or such kind of manual steps, they end up building these applications, right? What you call the custom applications. So either it could be a very unique requirement of that particular enterprise, and hence you may not find a ready-made software in the market to achieve that, or like I said, it could be increasing the automation to bring down some of your manual efforts. It could be a business process workflow that you would like to streamline by having this application in place. Could be some quick tools that you build to improve productivity of a certain segment within the enterprises. Right? Could be from an operation perspective or a supply chain perspective. And in some cases, it could be simply consolidating different sources of data and then being able to present that for actions, for decision making. That is another example. In some cases, it could also be something that you want to give it back to the customer. Like in the earlier slide, we saw about connecting to the customer, being able to understand their analytics and being able to help them, guide them. So to that extent, you may want to provide some of these applications as portals or as a touch point to your customers, or could be to your partners, to your vendors, so that everybody in the system can see the same information, like centralized information, a common goal, right? All of that can be achieved. Right? So these are some of the reasons why enterprises build these custom applications. And in a typical enterprise, if you look at the number of these custom applications are huge. So you, in no time, you would end up building a lot of such custom applications. Particularly if you are in the journey of digital transformation, you are going to be building a lot of such custom applications. So how do you manage these custom applications? What are the challenges that this approach brings into enterprises? There are two sets of challenges, I would say. One from a technical standpoint, the other one is from an overall management standpoint, managing the whole operations. Technically, what happens is many times multiple teams are involved in building these applications, and in a large enterprise, you may have distributed teams, and they could be working under different managers. So they end up choosing technologies that they are more comfortable with, which means the enterprise level, you end up having applications that are completely diversified, right? They're built in disparate technologies and different architectures, different patterns. There is no uniformity. Right? That's a big technical nightmare for the IT when it comes to managing these applications. And very key things like, for example, how the whole authentication works within these custom applications, and how is the authorization taking place? Is the centralized authorization? And tomorrow, if the enterprise or the IT decides to bring in a policy change or a process change in terms of how the authentication or authorization has to happen, how easy it is to incorporate into these diversified applications, right? So that becomes a big, again, a challenge for the IT. Now, some of these applications, if you want to take it to customer, how do I do that? That's another strategy, because many times these applications are built for internal use, but then later on, the enterprise might realize that you could also take it to a customer. So you may want to expose this to external customer, which means it becomes a different ball game altogether. Security becomes suddenly an important aspect. The availability of the system becomes very critical. The load of the system starts changing because now you're opening it for more usage, right? So the way it is deployed, the way it is organized, everything kind of changes. So how do I give access to my applications, and how do I control the access as well, right? And there's always the pressure in terms of how quickly can I reach to market. So that being said, on the technical side of it, how do we manage this whole setup, right? So with so many non-standard custom applications in place, so there's no uniformity in terms of administering these applications. So if I want to make any base level changes, then it becomes extremely high budget, high effort, high risk project to go and touch like 50 applications, 60 applications, and ensure that nothing else is breaking and the whole system still works fine. So that's a big task for the IT teams. And also having a single pane view or control of these applications and their visibility, particularly when you deal with multi-org units, right? For example, if you're an enterprise spread across different departments might be using these applications, different regions, different branches, sub-branches, sub-departments. So how do you get a visibility from IT perspective, and how do you manage the access of these applications across these various units? And at a user level, how do you ensure each person gets the right access and they don't get to see something that they are not supposed to see, right? So overall, being able to keep up with the pace of the business agility and being able to match up with the speed is a very big key challenge. So how do we address some of these things? How do we take care of these challenges which could help towards addressing the solutions for these challenges, right? So there are four key areas that has to be looked upon in order to build this solution. So when we say a digital management application platform, it's nothing but predominantly taking care of these four areas, which would give that flexibility, give that power to the IT to be able to help in the whole digital transformation journey, right? So there is this accelerator piece, which will help you to build applications faster, right? And being able to achieve time to market at a faster pace. Whereas the governance part of it deals with how do you administer the entire gamut of applications you have, and how do you take care of some of the process related aspects, complaints related aspects, right? How do you get a view, a holistic view, a single pane view of the entire application inventory, right? So that forms your governance part of it. And security by itself is a big area. So like we talked about, the authentication part of it, authorization part of it, who gets access to what level of access a customer gets, and what level access a vendor gets in. And between customers also the access could vary sometimes. And sometimes there is a single sign-on required, there is a multi-factor authentication that comes into picture. So all the security needs of these applications gets addressed under the security segment. And the last piece is something that very interestingly today some of the enterprises are trying to cash in on this digital transformation wave by making some of their internal applications or services as a revenue stream for the company. So they try to monetize some of these services. That way, they could also create some additional revenues for the company. So let's say you have an internal application and you would like to take that to your users, to your customers. A simple example could be, let's say there is a company, an enterprise that deals with consulting for on or on the risk management aspect. They do a risk consulting for companies. Now, this is an enterprise where their core business is consulting, and they are specialists in that. But what they also do in the process is they build one of their internal systems or internal applications for tracking these risks, right? So they decide to take this application outside and then have it available for some of their customers, and they could give this more like a subscription based service in addition to the consulting services that they are doing. So it's now becoming a consulting plus a software service revenue stream for them, right? So that's an example of how some of the enterprises are looking at uh, cashing in on their internal applications to create this monetization opportunity. Now, all applications may not fit into this category, but then there could be some applications or some services that could definitely be monetized, which means you need to have the right platform and the avenues infrastructure in place to be able to do that. Right? So getting into the accelerator part of it, there is one big challenge that many enterprises go through around um, the rapid development of applications. Right? So there is always a combination of options you have where you want to build something very fast, or something you want to build it with a control. Now, there are certain applications which are very simple, straightforward, vanilla type applications where it's more a cookie cutter approach. So nothing unique or no complexity involved. So in which case you can definitely go for a rapid application tool. But then some of the things that we talked about in terms of security, in terms of being able to operate this application across different org units, being able to monetize it. So those elements brings in additional complexity to your application, which means they are not normal vanilla applications anymore, right? So one of the key things that enterprise should look at is classifying the application inventory or what they're trying to build, and then apply the right approach towards developing these applications. So some of the straightforward, simple applications can very well be built using RAD tools. But then when it comes to having this control with them for building some of the complex applications, then that becomes a very crucial factor. So what are the things that drive this control to them, right? So one is the multi-tenant architecture need. So this is a very important topic again coming up within the digital transformation, where, like I said, being able to offer a service across to many customers, right? So the moment you do that, then you start providing a software or application which needs to have the multi-tenant capability within it. And you don't want to, as a strategy, be relied on a particular vendor, right? So you don't want to have a vendor lock-in by choosing one particular technology or one particular platform. Rather, you like to have the flexibility where you can move between clouds, between platforms, right? You don't have to necessarily get stuck with one platform forever. So that's another strategical thought that decides between to retain the control or to go for a RAD kind of an approach, like cloud neutrality and things like that. And also from a security perspective, how complex the security aspects are required, particularly when you deal with multi-tenancy, and the security norms could vary from unit to unit or to customer. Then the whole thing starts becoming a bit complex, in which case you need that level of technical control to be able to achieve it. And also some of these the RAD tools do not provide you a great level of options when it comes to third-party tool integrations or usage of such tools. So it comes with a cookie cutter approach. So you just have to go with what it comes with. So that's another aspect you need to look at. So it's basically to decide the right code platform rather than whether it's a rapid platform or a low code platform. Rather, you need to ensure that you are able to balance both these aspects and then make the right decision towards building these applications. So these are some of the key aspects to be considered when you are building an accelerator. So basically today all the applications are pretty much built on microservice architecture. So you need to have the application scope as well as the API scope clearly isolated. And more importantly, being able to support the non-functional requirements as well. Like what you see at the bottom of the slide is pretty much the key non-functional requirements that really have to be supported in some of these applications. Like we talked about the security, the multi-tenancy architecture, being able to configure the application according to the org unit that is consuming it. Then configurability becomes a very key aspect of it. And the whole performance of the application becomes a key aspect as well, and how it can scale today with the cloud deployment and things like that. Auto scaling and features like that become very critical. So the accelerator is something that should take care of these aspects of it, which means the developers or the IT team will be able to latch on to this and being able to build applications faster. Again, these are some of the key features, particularly around having more templarized code, being able to support a workflow module to streamline or depict some of the workflow processes, notifications that are being sent across could be separately built as notification engines, right? As well as have some reusable UI controls and taking care of non-functional requirements. Now, there is also this a lot of options today in terms of the what we call visual development tools that could help in terms of building these applications, right? Or in other words, called low-code platforms. Like I said, this low-code platforms are an excellent option when you deal with straightforward, simple applications. But then when you are looking at a slightly complex application, right, a medium to high complexity applications, then you start getting challenges around this, right? For example, like the vendor lock-in itself becomes a critical factor. You don't want that to be tied into one particular vendor dependency. Like multi-tenancy support may not be there. So this is some of the aspects that needs to be taken care of. Now, the alternate to this is the accelerator approach, which could really provide you both the advantages, right? It doesn't take you in a high speed, but at the same time, it doesn't put you restrictions as to what you could do. So it's somewhere in midway, and hence becomes an interesting option. We talked about the configurability aspect as well. So these are the various configurability aspects that needs to be considered while building an application, particularly if you're building an application or a service that is going to be monetized to the end users, right? So you have the whole subscription part of it could vary from customer to customer, right? So you may want to offer this service, so which means you may offer it as different subscription versions, different license models and things like that. So that could change. You may charge them based on what they are using, how much they are using. That's based on consumption, right? Similarly, at the security level, the whole authorization may vary from application to application or from customer to customer, right? And at the core application level, right from the whole branding part of it, like I said, if you are dealing with multi-org units or if you are an enterprise with multiple acquisitions, so there could be several group companies or child companies within them. So the whole branding becomes important there. So the same application has to be branded to be able to meet the individual company requirements. So that support should be there. And the whole customization aspects related to the business logic, the field level usage within these applications, right? So for example, when you are multi-regional, the whole business logic may change from, let's say for example, from US, let's say it's a tax calculation you are doing, it changes from US to, let's say, to UK or in Australia, right? So the whole thing changes. So which means your business logic should be configurable to be able to meet that. So that's just an example of it. So those are some of the key things at the application level. At the reporting level also, you need to have both box reporting as well as ad hoc reporting capabilities, which will help meet some of the customer requirements. And at the database level, you need the flexibility to isolate the data. For example, you may have all the US West related data grouped under one database or one entity, and then all the East related could be separate, or it could be by region, or sometimes it could even be between company to company. So two companies within the same company group don't want the data to be overlapped between them. So at the database level also you need that capability. So what we are talking here is about, when you talk about configurability, these are the various layers and the various aspects within those layers to be taken care of. So this is an example of where multi-tenancy comes in enterprises. So we talked about this scenario, like for example, let's take it's a quote management portal, right? So it could be used by a company called enterprise called XYZ, right? We're just taking pseudo name. So XYZ Inc. US becomes one primary tenant, right? So which is going to use this particular application. And within US, you have something called Seattle. You may have a branch office in Seattle, let's say, and then you have one in New Jersey. And in Seattle, you may have one or more offices within that. And similarly, in New Jersey, you may have one or more. So the whole tree, if you look at, a single organization now has a tree kind of a structure. Now, the moment you have something like this and you want the application to be able to be operated at the lowest level, right? So which means you should be able to operate at, let's say, Seattle level, you may want to operate at even further down. Then the application should be designed for such kind of a usage. And multi-tenancy is an architectural pattern that will help you achieve that goal. Okay. Now, this is something that enterprises have started using more. This is multi-tenancy is pretty much used in case of SaaS applications, but then the requirement in enterprises are also evolving, which is making it more effective to apply the same multi-tenancy between enterprises as well. So this is a traditional model of how the applications were dealt with in the past. Like you have, let's say, the code of that particular entity, the settings, the files and data all connected under one particular entity, and you just replicate that entity. Right? That's a traditional model. Whereas in multi-tenancy, you try to break that, and instead you start grouping them. For example, at a database level, if you look at, you have database that can hold information about tenant 1, tenant 2, tenant 3. And tenant is basically anything that can represent a customer or an organization or a part of the organization, right? So in case of the earlier example we saw, so it could be simply Seattle as a tenant, and New Jersey could be another tenant, right? And anything under New Jersey again could further get created as a tenant. So under each layer, you start identifying or grouping tenant, which gives that flexibility. So moving on, these are some of the governance related aspects that needs to be taken care when you are talking about a digital management application platform. So far we talked about the development part of it, like the accelerator and how do you build applications faster, but governance is something that's going to help you manage these applications regardless of how many you are building, right? So some of the key aspects here could be like maintaining service configurations or service templates, which will define how the applications or the services are being exposed, maintaining a catalog of it, monitoring the usage of these applications and APIs, Some of the events that are happening within these applications can get tracked. The whole health monitoring aspect can be brought into it. How do you manage the data partitioning aspects, branding related things? So this portal, the governance portal, should have all these capabilities that can give that power for IT to get a single pane view and be able to control the applications across the enterprises. The third is the security we saw earlier. So security, like we discussed, should be able to offer all the capabilities like single sign-on, federation, or being able to integrate with a third-party system and multi-factor authentication, MFA. And more importantly, it should be able to provide insights on what's happening, like user activity audits, can throw some light around how the users are using the system. More importantly, the role in privilege management will determine what a user can do and cannot do. So it could be either at a user level, at a tenant level, subtenant level, right? From the earlier example. So these are some of the very important aspects from a security standpoint. Last is the monetization piece. So it should be able to offer your services, group them, and then being able to offer as a package to your customers, be able to define a price plan for your service, being able to meter the consumption of your service, and then being able to create invoices based on the consumption on the period selected. Could be monthly, could be bi-weekly, or could be bi-monthly. So depending on the invoicing and the whole payment, if we are automating that as well, could be done within this particular segment. So that forms the monetization piece of it. So with that, we will move on to the second part of today's session, where we will show you a small demo of some of the features we talked about, right? We talked about the 4 areas of accelerator, governance, security, and monetization. So I'm going to have Logesh take over and show you a quick demo of how some of these features could be dealt with. Over to you, Logesh.
Thanks, Janaki. So Janaki gave us an overview about what Upload is and what features does it offers and other things. So what I will be doing today is like walk you through some of those features what Janaki has explaining so far, right? So what we are looking at currently is the Visual Studio development editor, and the solution opened is the boilerplate solution. So one focus area of Upload is the development acceleration, right? So out of box in the development accelerator piece, the boilerplate solution comes with it. So the boilerplate solution is an .NET Core 2.0 based application, so which comes with some set of base libraries, so which takes care of those the base architectural best practices implementation for any CRUD operation for a business entity, and as well as it comes with other libraries like logging, distributed caching mechanisms, and exception handlings and other plumbing layers, right? So what makes this solution more powerful is like this is being built on a stateless API based architecture. It makes it more scalable, and then we also provide an Angular based template, Angular 5 based template for the front end, right? So also we provide some of the code templates, so which Janaki was mentioning as the code generators along with this package. So you will be able to use those templates to generate the codes based on the base layers which we offer, right? For example, I'm using one of the template to create some set of files for the entity called incident. So what it would do is it would scaffold into different files that would be based on the architecture which we have configured in this boilerplate solution. So if you look at this, so this has generated a lot of files with the entity incident. So it has an incident set, incident repository, incident service, and all these being inheriting the base services which we offer with this base solution, right? So the base solution, the boilerplate solution itself is an accelerator which is being powered by the digital management platform. We will log into the digital management platform now, and we will look at it how we can configure the application, govern and maintain the applications which we build using this boilerplate solutions. I'm logging in as a root administrator within the digital platform. So all you could see here is the different applications which is being already provisioned in the platform, right? So the first step to govern an application is to register the application within the platform. You could register an application here with some basic information like the application code, name, and other details. And you could also specify the application structure. So which is nothing but the set of modules and features which we offer as part of the application. You could see for a sample price quote application. So we have created different modules like manage proposals, manage products, and each of these modules could intake features within the. So a manage proposal module takes the quote and CPQ statistics as the features. So each feature could again take some set of privileges. View code, add code, edit code could be some set of privileges which is being assigned for the feature code, right? And also we can define the different usage parameters for each modules. The usage parameters are nothing but the params using which we would be charging our customers if we are looking for a monetization aspect of the applications. So for example, the total quotes here is the usage parameter based on which the customers who are consuming this application will be charged. Being said that, once we configure the application structure, so we could go ahead and create different editions of the applications. So by editions, we mean the different packages. So the packages can take different modules and features within them. So we could group those modules and features under each packages. So these packages would in turn be subscribed by the customers. And also to be noted that each package could take some set of price plans. So each price plan can have again some set of slab rates based on the usage parameters. For example, in our case, total quotes was one of our usage parameter. What we could do is we could go ahead and specify the slab rates for the usage parameters. So once we define the packages and price plans, we could onboard our customers into the applications. We could onboard the customers by subscribing to the different applications which is being integrated with the Upload platform. You will be able to see all the applications available, and we would be able to subscribe to the applications which we require. We are choosing the packages and price plans, and we are subscribing to that particular application. So being said that, like the next aspect of Upload would be like, the security. So the security starts with the user management, right? So what we could do is we could go ahead and create users and map the roles to users. So each user could take a number of roles, and those roles will in turn take some set of privileges. So the roles again is based on the applications. So each applications could have some set of roles. And when we are assigning the roles to the users, it would be based on the applications to which the tenant, the user has been subscribed to. For example, for this particular user, he has subscribed to 4 applications: price quote, mineral processing, and risk administration. So he will be able to choose the roles from those applications. And then, so there are other modules which is provided by the Upload platform. For example, notifications. So the notifications which is sent as email or SMS out from our applications can be configured within the Upload platform. So each of these notifications again take a templates which is local based and dynamic in nature, right? And also we have a complete event management system. So events are nothing but the business events which is being raised at any point in the application. So you could configure those events based on the applications. And to be noted that like all these notifications and events are being audited and can be governed within the Upload platform itself. Right. So this is one of the sample notification that has been sent out. And similarly for the events. We do also have a workflow where you could create simple workflows using the drag and drop controls what we provide and make it dynamic in nature based on the conditions you could configure in the platform itself. The conditions could be a task condition or it could be a code condition, etc. And also the events what we create could be hooked back to the workflows. So on occurrence of an event, it could be triggering a workflow which will go through some set of tasks based on the conditions configured, right? And then we have other governance related features within the platform, like the product usage. So what we call as product analytics, where you would be able to track down all the requests that's being made to the application with the with the IP address, how much time it took for that request to be responded, and if there is any spike burst in the application loads, you will be able to monitor it here and you will be able to take actions necessarily. And we have the usage based reports, and similarly there are some other reports like the dashboards where you will be able to monitor all your customers, their invoices and other things. Right. So that's pretty much about the second part of the today's session. So where we looked at the development accelerator boilerplate solution and some of the features which is part of the Upload digital management platform. Thanks, Janaki. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Lokesh. I think with that, we'll just wrap with taking a quick look at the benefits from having a digital service platform. So let me started with the application diversification. So one of the key advantages with the platform approach would be the application standardization, which makes it much more easier to manage the applications down the line. So that's a very big advantage that you get out of it. Of course, the indirect result of that would be the reduced IT workload. So IT will have a much better control on managing these applications through the governance portals that are being offered. And since the applications follow certain guidelines, it becomes easier to manage these applications. The whole thing enables to be agile to meet the business goals, with the changes that might happen at the business level as well. And the application, the accelerator that we talked about, it really helped improve the productivity of developers, and developers just focus only on the business functionality rather than worrying about any of the other aspects. And the monetization piece can really open up a revenue stream for enterprises, as well as the single pane administration allows a great level of control for the IT teams to get a holistic view, at the same time being able to operate it. And this whole thing boils down to being able to operate IT in a more efficient and cost-effective manner. So that is another big advantage of this platform. So with that, we come to the end of this session. So feel free to type in any questions you have, and we have only a few minutes left to take up any questions that you may have. Okay, so we have a question around what kind of an ROI can be expected from having a digital management platform. That's a very interesting and very valid question, because looking at the components that are involved in a digital management platform, if an enterprise is going to build such a platform, then obviously it's going to consume a lot of effort and cost and budget and time frame, and hence ROI may not be that attractive. But if enterprises are going to adopt any of the existing digital management platforms like the Applaud itself, then the ROI could be as early as probably 6 months, right? So less than 6 months could be a good enough time period for them to recover the investments that they may make on such a platform. The other question that has come up is, so what kind of a cloud is being supported through this platform? So the one that we demonstrated is something that is built in a cloud neutral manner. So like one of the key aspects we believe is being able to not rely on one particular technology. So it's basically cloud neutrality is what we have brought in there. So you'll be able to operate it in any cloud today as well as tomorrow. So it's quite transferable from one cloud to another cloud. So Lokesh, there is a question for you. How quickly can an application be built using the accelerator that you demonstrated? So can you take that one, Lokesh?
Yeah, sure. So with building an application, so normally what it takes is to create and implement the CRUD operation for an entity would take less than 5 minutes using the boilerplate code generators what we have, and it depends upon the number of entities and the complexity of the nature of the applications, the time it would take to build the applications would vary. But then on an average, so with our experiences, what we could say is like an application could be built and being taken to production within 8 weeks of time.
Thanks, Lokesh. All right, I think that's all we have for today. And once again, thanks everyone for taking the time to join the session. Hope you found it useful. And we look forward to see you again soon in our next webinar as well. All right. Thank you. Bye.